In the previous How to Game Art, we talked about creating color palettes. We took a look at one technique to find the initial swatches of our palette, the local color method. In this tutorial, we are going to take off where the last one ended and keep exploring colors. There are more or less two other types of starting points for a color palette. We can start with diffuse colors or with a unique shadow tone. In the world of 3D, what we call the albedo or diffuse color is the shade produced by the diffusion of light rays by the surface of an object. The diffusion color represents a complex interaction between light and a given material. It's a little complicated, but it is not necessary to retain the definition of the albedo as a painter. The only thing we have to keep in mind is that the diffuse tones are the colors of your object in imaginary conditions where your eye wouldn't see shadows and highlights. Although this is incorrect, as artists, we often describe the albedo as the color of an object with the lights off, quote-unquote. This approach is especially natural for a 3D artist who is used to building up colors from the actual material of an object. 3D artists work with channels of information such as the diffuse color, a specular color and intensity, the hardness or the ability of a given material to reflect light, its index of refraction, etc. Yet, understanding diffuse colors is interesting for us as 2D game artists. Unlike local color-based palettes, this approach allows us to paint our objects step by step. We first take care of the diffuse color, then we add the direct lighting, the indirect lighting, and finally the highlights or the specular reflections of the object. It is a common approach that concept artists take, as they can easily change the colors of an object or its lighting to rapidly come up with polished variations of their design. Where local colors are vibrant, the diffuse colors will be a little duller. It is the scene's lighting that will actually beautify them. Unlike diffuse color palettes, which are built on a multitude of colors, color palettes based on a shadow tone are articulated and built around a single starting hue. This approach consists of choosing a unique shadow color for an entire environment or set of graphic elements. This initial tone acts as a real pivot for the entire palette and the final painting. All of the other colors derive from it. It constrains us to then pick swatches that are compatible with our initial shadow tone. And it's a good thing. Such a constraint reduces the choices that we can make regarding new colors, thus it facilitates the construction of our palette. This method especially makes sense considering that the ambient light of the sky has a distinct color. And we see it every day. If shadows are not black during the day, it is actually because even the part of an object that faces away from the sun is lit. At the same time, those rays are more or less tinted after the sky's color. It is mainly this skylight that lights the parts of objects that are facing away from the sun. That is why the shadows we encounter every day rarely lean towards black or grey under a clear sky. Those shadows are tinted with blue, orange, pink or even purple at dusk. This characteristic shadow color is perceptible throughout a whole painting, so that is why using a shadow color as your palette starting point is so interesting. The three color palette creation methods we looked at are but starting points. With practice, you can achieve the same results regardless of the approach you choose. However, each one offers different tools to structure your creation. Starting with the shadow tone is useful to breathe unity within a scene. The diffuse color permits us to split the painting into modular layers to get a flexible workflow where the lighting is separate from the base colors. Finally, local colors offer a vibrant rendering from the get-go. They focus the design process of a painting around its most intense colors. That's it for this video. In the next How to Game Art dedicated to colors, we will talk about more advanced palette creation techniques. But until then, I'd like to bounce back to another topic in order to vary a bit the releases on the channel. So rendezvous next week for a surprise theme. If you like the tutorials, please consider becoming a subscriber. That way you'll be notified whenever I release new content. That said, I want to thank you kindly for watching. Be creative, have fun, until next time.